And then I'm going to introduce to you a new Pearson application called TestHub. So TestHub is designed to help you manage digital assessments. And I'll be talking about what it is, what it does, and who it's for. And honestly, the best way to get to know TestHub is by talking about real life assessment journeys. So I've picked 3 journeys that we can talk about, and we'll see how TestHub can support those journeys. And at the end, we'll have a Q&A. Okay, so if I go to the next slide. Oh, having trouble moving slides. Let me try this maybe at the bottom. Yeah, okay. So just a little about me. I have worked in digital learning for English language learning for 12 years. I've worked on quite a range of digital resources. So I've worked on reimagining course books as ebooks. I've worked on online homework systems, so learning management systems. Some of you may use LMSs. More recently, I've been working on digital assessment. And I am based in the beautiful city of Bristol in the UK. So let's talk a little bit about challenges and what we hear. So this is what we hear from schools and from our customers. Just one note on terminology, actually. I will use the term school to mean teaching institution because it's a bit of a friendlier term. So rather than saying school, university, training centre, vocational college, I'll just use school as a short term, and as a shorthand term. And then similarly for student learner, I'll use test taker. I may alternate a bit, but just to be clear, if you hear the terminology school, I'm not just talking about high school K-12 education. So what we hear from our schools, our assessors, are some of the challenges they're mostly divided into 2 main camps. So we have the logistical challenges, I have to test a really large volume of students in a really short space of time at a particular point in the year. I've got a lot of students that I need to get through that process. My students may be at different levels, at mixed abilities. How do I know which test to give them? This year, as we know, has been especially challenging because many students are learning and testing at home. So we have the logistical challenges of assessment, and then we also have how to put the outcomes into action. So if I'm running assessments 2-3 times a year, they're really important. I need to make them count. I need to make those results count. And I need to look at ways to be able to build them into my teaching. So how can I get that big picture? How can I get a picture of what's really happening with the results? So these are the kind of challenges we hear, but we'd be really interested to hear from you. Actually, I've just realised, sorry guys, I've realised that actually we're going to ask you a different question, and that is my fault because I should have updated this slide. But let me tell you, so don't look at the slide. Let me tell you what questions we're going to ask. I realised that another colleague was giving a webinar with a very similar question, so I did a last minute change. The poll that we're going to launch, and Charlie will do that in just a minute, is going to ask you 2 questions. And I would love it if you would answer at least one of them, but you can answer both. And the questions are, what concerns you most about digital assessment? So what is your kind of biggest, thank you, perfect. What is your biggest concern about moving assessment online? And then the second question is, sort of the opposite really. What do you think the benefit is of assessment going online? So please answer these questions. Even if you're not using online assessments, you're using paper-based assessments, doesn't matter. I'm sure you have an opinion. So we'd love to hear from you. So I think what we'll do now is just give you a bit of space, just take a couple of minutes, and please give us your answer to those questions. Say that again, Charlie, sorry. I can't, no, and it's okay. I'd also just like to explain that um, we won't have time to really go through the results in this particular webinar, but it's just really valuable to get these insights. So yeah, we'll be reading them with real interest.
Okay, great. Well, there are lots of answers coming in.
Yay!
Perhaps we give it another sort of 15, 30 seconds and then we can
Sounds
close.
good. Yeah, sounds good.
Brilliant. Okay, there's been a good amount of respondents now, so should we?
Fantastic.
Nice.
Yeah, let's move on.
There you go.
Great stuff. Thank you. Oh, my buttons on my keyboard are working now too, which is good. So thank you. Thanks a lot for those responses, and I really can't wait to see them. I want to talk now a bit about designing for digital assessment and managing assessment online. I mentioned that I'd worked on learning management systems, LMSs, which some of you may use, Moodle or Blackboard, or you may have your own school system, homegrown system. And I think a key difference is with learning management systems, they're often very rich in features because the focus there is on a continual flow of information between the teacher and the class. That's really where the relationship is. There's probably regular homework assignments, quite a lot of manual marking. There are group activities. I think these are the real benefits of learning management systems. With digital assessment, it's a little different. It tends to be periodic. So assessments, big assessments, I'm not really talking about unit tests, but big assessments may happen, once or twice a year. The stereotype is beginning, middle, and end of course, although it may not work quite like that. So they're less frequent, periodic. And here, the relationship is really on the school, the coordinators, the teachers being able to get the test takers onboarded, so get the assessment to them and get them through the process as painlessly as possible. So, looking for really rapid kind of onboarding of students. And then also fast turnaround of results. So, those results very quickly need to be analysed and need to be built into teaching plans, because the goal really is to get reliable results which can be built into teaching and give the students a better chance of reaching their target level at the end of a course. So there are some differences, I think, there. And also it's about being able to take those outcomes and make them actionable, as in, how does this fit with my teaching material? How can I link these results to what I'm doing with my particular course book? So with that, I'd like to introduce TestHub, because TestHub is really purpose-built for managing digital assessment online. You can see the URL up there. What is it? It is an online application. So it runs through a browser. It's nice and responsive. So this admin, it's an admin portal. It can be used on smaller screens like mobile. And it includes tools both for managing assessments, and we're going to see some of those today, and also tools for the test taker. So for the student to actually go in, launch the assessment, and complete it and submit it. You don't need very much really to run TestHub. As I mentioned, it's online, it's browser-based, there's nothing to download. For launching the actual tests, and I'll talk a bit more about our proficiency assessments in a minute, few more restrictions. These tests are really designed to be run on a larger screen. We're not quite there really with mobile testing yet. The content of the online tests we offer is definitely suited to a laptop, desktop screen. There's quite a lot of text, quite a lot of media. So really, if the students are launching a test, we definitely recommend that that's done on a laptop or desktop, but the portal itself can be used on any device. So who's using it? We launched TestHub in June. We've onboarded about 150 schools, I think, and we've delivered nearly 10,000 tests to date. We launched with an essential feature set, but we're rapidly evolving the platform, and we're doing this in line with feedback from schools as well. So we're working closely with customers to understand which features we should be adding and what is really of most priority. Again, keeping in mind that this is a platform designed to manage assessments. So who's it for? Just to recap, assessors, teachers, people coordinating assessment, people who are hands-on, who are running the assessments, monitoring them, and drilling into the results. It's also for students, for test takers. So it's the same application, a different view for a test taker, much simpler view, where they can register and then log in to see the test on their dashboard and launch it. And we'll see that today. And then we also have a tool set that is designed for those who are maybe less hands-on with assessment, but are super invested in the results. So school heads or heads of a group of schools, some of the distributors we work with in different countries where they really need to analyze performance at scale. We also have tools for those guys. But today I'm really going to focus on the personas on the left-hand side, so teachers, coordinators or assessors, and test takers. Which products? So TestHub is an admin portal. I want to make that really clear. It's designed to help schools manage assessment, and it's designed to get the online assessments to the test takers. But it wouldn't really be of much use without the proficiency assessments that we offer. I'm hoping that you guys have had a chance to go to some of the other webinars we've had, which talk about these tests in detail, the online assessments we offer. So I'm just going to recap again briefly here. Our assessments kind of fall into three camps, really. We have the leveling tests, two versions of that. We've got a 4-skill version and a 3-skill version, which doesn't include speaking. And the online level test is adaptive. It's short, can be done in under half an hour. And it will adapt to the ability of the learner, by which I mean there is one test for everybody. According to how the test taker answers, the questions will adapt. And at the end, they'll be given a CEFRA half-band, Common European Framework level half-band, which will help you organize your English program. Then we have benchmark. So benchmark is a longer test, and it gives a more detailed picture of performance. So the premise is, at this point, that the students have actually been leveled, and they're on a course of study. And this is really about giving a picture of how they're performing within their course level. So there's some really rich reporting. And then we have the readiness test, which is our newest product and is incredibly exciting. So the readiness test is really there to predict how prepared test takers are to go and take a high stakes exam. So we'll be talking a little bit more about that one. But it's sort of a predictive practice test that will help schools and learners prepare to take sort of one of the major exams. And the thing that these tests have in common, they're all online. They're all online proficiency tests. They are timed. They test the 4 skills. All of them give reporting across the 4 skills of reading, writing, listening, and speaking. They're automatically marked. No human marking, no manual marking here. They are marked with our AI scoring engines. And all the test levels and the results are mapped to Common European Framework of Reference. So these are the factors they all have in common. At this point, you may be interested in trying one of these products. So you simply ask your Pearson rep and they will do all for you. They'll set you up with some trial codes and an account. So I think we're now going to move into the demo session, where I'm going to demo what TestHub does and how it can support. And we've got 3 scenarios that we're going to cover. So the first day, when students arrive on a course, or potentially the pre-session before they actually begin the course, schools will need to place them according to their English proficiency. So they need a picture of what that English proficiency level is. So the leveling scenario is one that we'll use to walk through the core TestHub journey. And then we have benchmarking progress, so giving a more detailed, granular picture of how students are progressing through a course of study, and then assessing their readiness to take high-stakes exams. So these are the 3 scenarios that we're going to work through together today. Remote testing, have to talk about this because it's just been such an incredible year, really challenging for everybody. A lot of students are testing at home. And this is a really hot topic. I know this from colleagues who've been running other webinars. It's challenging for everybody. We do give practical tips, and you can see some here on how to manage testing at home. I think it's something that we're all learning about, and certainly Pearson is refining its guidance around remote testing and bringing in new tools to help them, the managing of remote testing and remote monitoring. But there are some practical things you can do, both behavioural and logistical, and I've listed some of these here. I'm sure this will have come up maybe in the challenges that you raised regarding digital assessment. So let's start our journey with level. And just a reminder, level is a short adaptive test, less than half an hour, can be taken by students of any ability, and it is designed to tell them and the school their English proficiency level. So, the idea here is that this is students arriving or, preparing for an English program or an academic year. So they're arriving on their program, and they need to be grouped according to their level. So with that, I'm now going to go over into screen sharing. You might just need to give me a couple of minutes. It looks like I am already sharing my screen, which is good. So let me just go in and check that you can all see this. Charlie, can you tell me if you can see a dark blue screen with sign in? Charlie, you there?
Sorry, Cath.
Okay, it says I'm sharing my screen. I wonder if somebody is able just to tell me if you can see the screen. All good. Pearson English says all good. Okay, good.
Sorry, something wrong with my mic. Now you can
terrified me then. Okay.
Sorry,
so,
no, it's working
no,
perfectly. Sorry, Cath.
Okay,
My mic's not working.
No problem. So you can see a dark blue screen, yeah. Yeah, okay. So I'll continue, and I'm assuming that somebody will tell me if there's any issue with that. Okay, so I am now going to sign into TestHub, and I'm actually going to sign in as an assessor. So I'm going to sign in as somebody who is managing assessment. We can see that we have a school here, an institution. It's a made-up institution, of course. But this is it now. I'm logged in as somebody who will be administering assessment. And I see here, I'm in my home screen, there are a few things I can do on this screen. I'm not going to go through everything, but I do quickly want to show you licensing. Now, you may not be involved in ordering tests for your school. Okay, that may not be a job that you do. But I think it's just worth explaining this because the way we work with schools with orders is basically the school can decide exactly how many tests they need. Yeah, so we don't really have predefined packages. A school can say, I need 1,000 tests, 10,000 tests, or 1,557 tests. It really doesn't matter. You know, we will supply as many tests as are needed, and those licenses, think of a license like a pool of tests. They can be easily topped up as well. So for level, I can see that I've got 17 tests remaining. I can also see how many tests have been used in this account as well. And really what I want to do, like the main job I'm here to do, is to assign a test. So you can see this big yellow button here. Okay, so I'm going to assign to some test takers. I've got a couple of options. Now, if it's leveling, if these students are being placed at the beginning of a course, then likely I don't know too much about them, or you know, I may have limited information. They're probably not yet linked with my school. So what needs to happen here is that the test takers need to be joined to this school, and that means that the school can then, you know, see their results and push them further tests. So I'm going to go assign to new test takers. I'm going to choose level as the test. I have an option of a start date. Yeah, so I can use that. It's not mandatory. It's useful if, for example, you want all test takers to take the test on the same day. So a start date may be something that you want to enforce. It is mandatory in TestHub to set a due date. So you do need to set that. I've set one at the end of the month. And you can see here, there are a couple of ways you can join test takers to your institution. And again, why do you need to join them? Well, because you need to link them with your school so that you can see the results and then potentially push them tests in the future as well. So you can invite them by email, and in a way, this is the easiest way of doing it. The student will receive an email, an invite with a link, and the link will say, you know, welcome, you've been asked to join Institution X. Click on the link and they can then register, and they log in and see the test on their dashboard, and they can launch the test. So it's similar to, you know, if you think that any other application that you use or have joined, often you will get an invite asking you to register. And the similar thing is happening here. The thing is that we know that some of the teaching institutions we work with really don't have much information up front about the test takers. They may not have reliable emails. So email may not be an option. And that's why we have our other option here, which is to create basically printable joining slips that can be given to test takers. So you can see it here, and I'll show you a bit more about what that looks like in a minute. So this is a good option if you're not really happy about sending out emails or confident of sending out emails. This is another way to join test takers. I should mention as well, we also do have a batch import option where we can create accounts on behalf of test takers. So that is an option as well, particularly if you're a school dealing with, you know, a lot of different students. Then the simplest thing may be that we create the account on your behalf. Okay, I'm going to choose, I know I've only got 17 tests available to me, so I'm actually going to choose to create 5 invites here. Now, I may group my test takers, or I may not. We know that, particularly in the case of placement and levelling, sometimes what the school wants to do is group them later. So there are actually other ways to locate students by or sort of filter results or locate reports for test takers without grouping them. So we make it optional. Yeah. I think, going to add these test takers to an existing group, though. I'm going to add them to intake 1 and go to next. So here's my confirmation screen, and you can see how this has just been done in a few steps. Yeah, this is how we join test takers. So I can see that I've got the level test. This is my due date, and I've got 5 invites that I've created, but it could be 1,000. It's perfectly possible to create hundreds of invites to test takers in this step. And I can see that I'm going to add them to this particular group. So let me send the invites now. Now I'm going here, test invites. This is where I can track whether or not the invite has been used. Yep. So what we now need students to do is use that joining code register and log into the dashboard to see their test. And I can actually track that in here. Let's see if we've got one. Yeah. So I can see here, I've got an invite code. It has been accepted. I can see who it's been accepted by. Again, these are slightly fake names, although I have got one that's expired. That means that the test taker didn't use it before the due date, in which case it may need to be resent. So let me go back here. I have the option to get these joining codes by CSV. That's useful if you want to sort of custom design your own invites and include the joining codes. But I'm also going to download this PDF here. And I'm going to go open this PDF. And now you can see what these joining slips look like. So you can see that there's a common web link here, and there is a joining code. So I'm now going to use this joining code, and I'm going to show you how a test taker will log in and accept this. Okay. So if I go to, let me just check this is all good. Let me go here, submit this joining code. Yeah, and what will happen here is that the test taker will come to a screen where they need to sign in. Now, they may have a Pearson account already, particularly if they're using one of our applications like Pearson English Portal, or they may need to create an account, in which case they need to enter their first name, last name, email, username, the usual information. It's quite quick. They can also opt to do that in their own language too. I'm going to change that password, because I think this is the right one. And I'm going to sign in. Yeah, and I can see here that the level test is added to my dashboard. This is the test taker view. So what we were looking at before were the tools for the assessors, the people administering assessment, but this is the view for the test taker. And it's really simple. It's a really simple view, and it's designed to be simple because ultimately we just want them to be able to launch the test. Now that they've registered, they have an account, they can use that account for other tests in the future. They can launch this test without having to sign in again. So no other access code is needed at this point. Again, it's just trying to keep the journey really simple. So they can launch a sample test, and we really recommend that, particularly with remote testing, because it just gives them some additional practice. Or they can launch the real test, which is here, and it will launch in a separate window. And you can see here that they'll need to go through an equipment check. Let's see. Okay, they need to check their audio. They need to check their recording. Hello, 1, 2, 3. So that's just tested my mic to make sure, because the level test includes a speaking component. And they can go in and they can start answering questions, and the level test will adapt according to the input. So this is an online test that they can take, and they can launch it without signing in again. So now I'm just going to log back in and show you what the administrator, the assessor sees. So let me go back in, because there are tools to monitor these tests and also report on them. So let me go back in here. I'll go to overview. So I've gone to the overview screen. Now, this is a place where I can see all of the tests that have been assigned within my institution. You can imagine this list will get pretty big. So we tend to recommend that it's used with filters. So I can decide here that I only want to see the tests that have been assigned for level. I may want to track tests that have a certain status. So I may want to track tests that I've assigned. You can see the most recent one I did here. That was the one I just signed in with. Oops, sorry, let's close those notifications. And I can see that the test is in progress because I launched that test. I went through the equipment check and I started answering questions. So I've got a couple of tests in progress here, and I've got one that is assigned. And I can check this alongside due dates. And this is really useful if I've got a test that is going to be due soon, and I want to check whether it's been started or not. Is the test in progress? Has it been scored, or is it still just assigned? These filters are quite useful. If I've put test takers into groups, so let's choose a couple of groups here. then I can also report on those groups. So I can see I've got a lot of tests that are scored here. I can see I've got a CEFRA for these guys. Let's go and look at a score report. And here it is. This is a report on the level test. I can see here that the levels, the levels that these students achieved are mostly distributed here. So B1 is the biggest concentration. Most students achieve B1 in this leveling test, and then we've got a couple of levels either side. So let's go now and drill into the number of students here who got B1. Now, this is a relatively few test takers. Could be many more than this, of course. But what this report does is it tells me that for students who got B1, this is how they're performing in the skills. So Homer, for example, is at B1 level for reading, speaking, and writing, but for listening, he is below level. Let me go and look at his report. I've just drilled into that. And I've got some advice here, some guidance, a summary of what Homer can do. And I can see that with listening, this is the one where he is below level. I can see what he can do. And having that skills profile alongside the overall CEFRA level is, again, a really useful way, not just to organise an English programme and group students according to ability, but also monitor them. So monitor particular skills, particularly where some students are underperforming. And it could be the case that a lot of students are underperforming in the same skill, which may kind of affect the teaching material they receive. Okay, so I am now going to go back just briefly to my presentation deck. I think I need to just quickly share the presentation again. Yeah, okay, all good. So I'm now going to talk about another journey, which is benchmarking progress. So we've seen how students can be levelled, and we've seen that a lot of those students have a kind of spiky profile where they're performing better on some skills than others. What Benchmark does is it's designed to be taken during a course of study when students are already at a particular level. And it's designed to give a picture of how they're performing, as a snapshot at a point of time, a picture of how they are performing at that level and across the skills. And there's some really detailed reporting on the skills and how this guidance can be mapped to the coursebook that you're using. So Benchmark is a longer test and level. It's more in depth. It's about 45 minutes. And it does some really detailed analysis across the 4 skills. So let me quickly show you a benchmarking journey. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. Well, hopefully I already am. Yeah, so let me go back in now. And I'm going to go back to the overview screen, and this time I'm going to report on Benchmark. By the way, you're probably seeing these. Let me just quickly explain these. If a status of a test has expired, it means the test taker didn't complete it before the due date. Yeah, they didn't start it before the due date. If that happens, we will credit that test back to the license pool. If a test is abandoned, it means the test taker did start the test, but for some reason they didn't complete it. And there could be all kinds of reasons for that. So we give those statuses to institutions just to help them explain why a test hasn't been scored. So this time I'm going to go report on a benchmark test. I'm going to report on a couple of levels. I'm going to report on, let's do A and B1. So Benchmark is a multi-level test. It's available at 4 levels on A to C. And I'm going to report on the results for 2 of those levels, which is A and B1. Okay. So here, again, is our group report. I've got 15 students who took the test at levels A and B1. Yeah. I can see their average scores. Yeah, so this is the median average of their results. What are these numbers? These are mapped to Pearson's global scale of English. Hopefully you may have attended a webinar on this 80-point scale that sort of helps to measure student progress in a very granular way. It's also, we can also see that there's a mapping to the Common European Framework of Reference there too. So these are the average scores across the group. I've got a breakdown here so I can see more information about test takers. I can see some really were scoring towards the lower end of B1, so the threshold for B1 starts at 38 on the global scale of English. So this guy here, Berg, he has an asterisk score, and we can see also there's a Cepha mapping. Sorry about these notifications. I thought I'd close Teams, but still seem to be getting them. We see that he didn't get a score in one of the skills. He got not scoreable in speaking. Now that may happen if, for example, the response wasn't intelligible or he skipped a lot of questions. And we still provide an overall score for the test, but we asterisk it to say that one skill was not scoreable. And we can see that he's definitely scoring at the lower end of B1 on the other skills. So, you know, potentially he's definitely not ready to go to the next level of the benchmark test. And I can see here a performance summary, and I can see recommended activities, and I can map this guidance to a particular course. So let's say that I'm using business partner. Let's do business partner B1. Actually, let me do something else. Let me do A2 plus. So what I can do is I can actually take this guidance of recommended activities based on this listening score, and I can see there are a ton of places I can go to put these activities into practice. So if I want to give more practice on dialogues and monologues, these are some of the places in my course book that I can go to do that. And these are available at the group level too. So if I want to look at what are the best activities that I should be using to practice for this particular group of test takers, then I can do that here. And I can see activities again in my course book, and you can see we've got a lot of courses available. I can see where to go and give extra practice of these activities. So this is benchmark. One thing I did miss out, which I should mention, is that this test can be assigned in exactly the same way as the level test. One of the differences, though, is that at this point, if the students have done a levelling test, they may already be known to the institution. So rather than having to invite them again, you may just simply want to notify them that they've got a new test. Another difference is, of course, I have to choose the level to assign to these test takers. So I need to know what level of the test they should be taking. I still need to give a due date. Here, if the test takers are already joined to my institution, then I simply go and search for them. I can actually search for them by group. So if they're already put into a group, let's take demo group 1, then I can just go and very easily assign to an existing group. So here there's no inviting of test takers again. But the other thing I wanted to mention is this: release scores to test takers. That is an option for schools. They may or may not want to do that. If they really want to control the flow of results and decide when those results should be given, they may choose not to release scores. But we know, again, from feedback we're getting from schools, particularly in the world of remote testing, getting results to test takers can be really challenging. So there is the option to release scores as well, which means that test takers will get a full report of their results, similar to the ones I've just shown you that the institution sees. Okay, so the last journey I want to talk about, and I'm going to try and do this briefly because I know that we're running out of time, and we want some time for questions. Just go back to the webinar and back to my presentation. Just a note about the benchmark roadmap as well. The reports I've showed you are really about a snapshot in time. They're about reporting on a specific test. Where we're going is much richer reporting around progress across multiple test sittings. So seeing how an individual or a group performs across multiple tests, and also improved dashboarding. I remember I mentioned the guys who are sort of at that senior school head level. being able to give those guys better dashboarding of results, so they can really start to analyze performance at scale. So finally, readiness, assessing readiness. What are the top needs? Here, readiness is a different kind of test because it's less about giving a numeric score on a scale, and it's more about saying, how ready is this test taker to go and take a high stakes exam? Like benchmark, it's a multi-level test. You can take a test that levels on from A2 to C1 on the Common European Framework. So you can assign different levels of the readiness test according to the target level you're trying to reach for that test taker and an assessment of their ability. And what it will do is it will mirror the kind of questions that you get in the actual exam. And in the reporting, it will tell you how prepared a group or an individual test taker is to go and take a high stakes exam. So briefly, let me just show you how that reporting looks. Go back to screen share. And let's go back here. I'm just going to sign into a different institution where I can show you the readiness reports. Yeah, so let me just go here. I'm just going to run a really quick report from the overview screen. And we can see here we've got 24 test takers. Majority of them are ready, but I can see that a third of them are not ready to go and take their exam. And this actually gives me a breakdown by test level. So I can see those who took an A2 exam. We've got a pretty good picture here. Yeah, majority are ready or potentially ready. But for B1, it's a bit of a different picture. More are not ready than ready. Let's go and take a look and drill into that. So here I can see a summary of the students who have taken a B1 readiness exam. And I can see that I've got some who are really at risk here, particularly Colette. So if I go and have a look at Colette, then I can see the summary that she really isn't too ready at all across the skills. Listening is her best performing skill right now, and I can see some guidance for her on listening. So skills are potentially at the level, but this is what I can do. She needs more exposure to talks and lectures and recordings in order to develop her listening skills. I also get guidance if they are not ready unless they've fallen below the range of the test and below the range of the B1 test, in which I can't really give them any B1 guidance because they're not at that level. But for speaking and writing, I get some guidance on how I can bring Colette up to that B1 level. And again, if we map this to, let's just do maybe Speak Out Pre-Intermediate. This is the course book I'm using. Then again, you can see that I'm getting guidance on where I can go and what kind of materials I can use with Colette or with the group as a whole, because this exists for the group report too. What kind of guidance, how I can use my teaching materials to help them prepare for the target level, so when they go and take that high stakes exam, they are ready. Okay, so we can wrap up now. And we can go into questions. Go back to my presentation here. Just a note on the Readiness Roadmap. I really want to mention this because it's exciting. I've been showing you institutional journeys today, so how schools will assign tests and see results and report on results. But for readiness, because we have quite a large cohort of independent adult learners, we're going direct to learner. So we're actually going to start, we're working on journeys that will enable test takers to buy their own tests through TestHub once they register. And once they register an account, they can have access to all kinds of resources that will help them on the path to taking a high stakes exam. So this is a really exciting development for us, to be able to work directly with adult test takers and help them prepare to take that high stakes exam. So we have a much kind of fuller test taker experience that is coming for those guys. And in summary, This is what TestHub can do. It can support the major testing scenarios. There are tools, as you've seen, both for the test taker, quite a simple dashboard right now, but that is going to grow, that experience is going to grow, particularly for independent adult test takers. The way of assigning and reporting on tests is very consistent across all of our products, and we designed to keep it as simple as possible. And we've just got a really exciting roadmap focused on much richer reporting and learner resources. So watch this space. Okay, I think we can go over to Q&A. I think we've got a little bit of time left.
Yeah, we certainly do. Cath, thank you so much for that. Can you hear me loud and clear, Cath?
I can hear you loud and clear. Yes, and apologies everybody for all the notifications from my development team on Teams. I thought I closed it, but I'll make sure I do that before the next webinar. They're very active and busy, what can I say?
Well, you're a busy bee, Cath, so don't worry about it. Okay, so I've got a couple of questions here. And again, if you can't answer them, then we can just follow up by email, so let me know. So how can the school get a license? Where can we find information about the prices? Are the license linked to books or institutions?
Great, brilliant questions, and very practical questions. So in terms of licenses, the first port of call is to talk to your rep, and your rep will guide you through that process. What happens is it's well worth trialing the products, so you can actually get a trial license. You'll be given a few tests, and you can run some tests with your teachers and your students. And then when you're ready, hopefully, to commit to a bigger license and to a purchase, then you work with your rep. So there is a form the rep will fill out. They'll collect some information from the school. At this point as well, you may want to decide whether you want, for example, us to batch import accounts on your behalf, or whether you're happy for students to self-register. It really depends on your setup. But the rep will organise all of that, and basically they'll make a request for a certain number of tests to be added to the institution account. We do have a price per test. I'm slightly afraid I'm going to get it wrong if I say it. So get that information from your Pearson rep, but you pay per test, basically. That's how it works. And the license is attached to the institution rather than the course book.
Brilliant, thank you. And a small addition to that then. In the case of a private teacher or freelancer, I presume they're set up as an institution themselves.
Yeah, again, fantastic question. We've done that already, actually. Yeah, we have set up freelance teachers as institutions. So yeah, that is perfectly possible.
Brilliant. So the next question is, do your tests test the 4 language skills, or are they only for grammar and vocabulary?
They test the 4 skills. So the reports I was showing, all of them report across the 4 skills. Let me just go through that. So for the level test, you get the student will get an overall CEFRA level, and that includes scores for grammar and vocabulary, so for language. But the reports will actually give you how they performed across the skills. So for level, you'll get an overall CEFRA half band, like A2+, and then you will be able to see how the test takers performed on the 4 skills. And the way we do it for level is we say they were above their CEFRA level, or they were below it, or they were at level. And it's just a way of kind of seeing what that profile of the test taker is. Then for benchmark, very rich reporting across the 4 skills, plus an overall score, which includes grammar and vocabulary. And readiness will give a picture of how prepared students are overall to take, for example, a B2 exam, high stakes exam, and then how ready they are across the skills. So the skills profile is really important, and that's where we do a lot of our mapping to course books. But the overall status or score, be it a CEFRA score, an overall score on the global scale of English, or an overall readiness status, includes testing the language skills as well, grammar and vocabulary.
Brilliant, thank you, Cath. Somebody's asked about testing professional English. I presume the answer to that is that yes, they get a license and then link it to a business partner course, for example, or business course.
Yes. Yes, that can be done. I'm only hesitating a little because the proficiency tests that I've walked through today that we offer through TestHub are general English. So if you're interested in testing, assessing professional English, business English, we do have other products that may be very well suited to that. So that's just, again, that's something that you can raise with your Pearson rep. But just a note, our exams are very much focused on general English proficiency.
Great. Okay, fine. And just very quickly, time for one more. Are we able to use these platforms if we're using course books from different publishers?
Great question. Great question. Yes, but we don't. The courseware mapping that I showed you. So we were looking at that for benchmark, right? And we also have it for the readiness test, our Pearson courses. So we map to our own courses, and we give guidance on where you can go in your coursebook to do extra practice. So of course you can use these. These tests are designed to report on Common European Framework and global scale. So they're designed to give you, a clear, generic picture of performance. The part you will miss out on is where, actually being able to go into your course book, into your student's book, and locate that activities, because we don't map to other course books. But other than that, then yes, of course, these can be used alongside other courses, and we report on universal scales in order to do that.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much, Cath. There are a few more questions, but I'm afraid we don't have time to answer them.
Okay.
So thank you, Cath, for the time of presenting and putting together the slides.
Okay, thanks a lot, guys. Really good to spend time with you today, and I will try to answer any questions as a follow-up. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Certificates will be sent out and the recording will be uploaded to YouTube. Thanks for joining us today, and we hope to see you at another Pearson English webinar soon. Have a good day.
Okay, thanks, guys. Bye.